I think if he does like a full press campaign, if it's neck and neck and Trump's ahead and he's having to make all those stops, like, yes, Mr. Biden, it's ABC at 6, NBC at 6:30, at 8 p.m. We're going to be on the road in Wisconsin. At 9 o'clock, you're going to be on your plane. We're landing at 10. If it's days like that for weeks at a time, I think that'll literally kill that old man. And that has nothing to do with like his mental faculties. I think that is very stressful and ages.
I look forward to seeing what you're talking about, Kyle, because during Biden's presidency, he hasn't been that accessible. I think I like a lot of the policies. I feel like he's doing the right thing, and I'm mostly thinking about Ukraine and now perhaps Israel. I'm a little
his foreign policy. I'm on board with, obviously, economically. If we drew one of those fucking boards, Taylor, we'll get to your fucking isolationist. Let's all hide out here behind
what getting health care before we fund more wars.
You hated healthcare for
They're not mutually exclusive. If we stop giving funding to Ukraine tomorrow, it's not like we could summon the political will to get like Medicare for all or whatever.
Healthcare. If they can afford it, they've got too much.
People talk about it in terms of like, okay, why are we giving this like $30 billion to Ukraine when we could be doing the homeless vet stuff or whatever? But it's like, if we didn't give any of that money, you would still have a debate in Congress about how that money should be spent. And it's not like that. It's not we would automatically get healthcare if we didn't give.
No, it wouldn't automatically, but you could get other things for it. You could not spend hundreds of billions on foreign wars and that don't service the American people.
What are we sacrificing domestically? Give me a specific policy that we don't have because we're giving funding to Ukraine.
We have shit tons of inflation. We're printing money. We are printing billions of dollars.
There is a global inflation. There are global inflationary pressures going on right now for a variety of reasons, including
we are the anchor point currency. Like we are the global currency. Like we are the
Italy had
by which all others are compared. And ever since they did the huge COVID stimulus thing and printed shit tons of money, now we're seeing inflation running rampant. The cost of energy, the cost of food, home ownership, 8% mortgage rate.
Our inflation is lower than the rest of the world.
Every other country in the G7.
They're not dragging our anchor.
We fared better than every other country in the G7. Are we saying that like inflation in Germany is because Joe Biden passed the American Rescue Plan? Is that what you think?
No, forget about Joe Biden and Trump and that. We print money for businesses, non-government organizations in the form of the COVID shit where they hand it all out and they send you a little pittance, and then we fund infinite wars and we keep printing more and more and more money from the Fed. And what does that do? That obviously causes inflation. And the result of people on the ground here is the cost of food, energy, day-to-day purchases. Home ownership has become an impossibility. This shit is not good for the American public. The American people.
We're back down to like normal levels of inflation. It had been going down for like the last year.
No, we're not.
Yes, we are.
The consumer price index is going through the roof. It's bad.
Wait, what? We're talking about inflation right now. The rate of inflation is like, what? Isn't it like less than 3% at this point? We are like back to pre-COVID levels, aren't we?
It's not down 3%. It's back to like going up a similar amount year over year. So inflation has gotten worse over the year. It stopped rising at the absurd rapid rate, but it's still worth way less than it was.
Your money didn't gain its value back.
We peaked at 9% inflation. No, obviously that's not how inflation works. Obviously, like these are the new levels or whatever. But
that's bad. That's a big thing.
Deflation's worse. And I'm not a good enough economist to explain why, but deflation is a catastrophe.
We saw tons of inflation in this country because the vaccine was distributed. We started to get back to like normalcy or whatever. All of a sudden, demand skyrocketed for goods that had been sort of shuttered during the pandemic. These companies, especially like energy, we had this enormous demand for oil all of a sudden, and we didn't have the infrastructure in place to actually account for that. So the price of that skyrocketed. Like there's so many reasons why global inflation occurred. And then you had oil pressure on the oil prices because of the conflict in Ukraine. And that had an effect like literally all over the world. And then you also have organizations OPEC, right? OPEC was making the decision to deliberately like hamper the supply of oil so they could manipulate the price in their favor. There's all kinds of reasons.
In the real day-to-day world, middle-class people are getting fucked. Home ownership has become an impossibility for a lot of people. Homes are more expensive than ever in real dollars, and the rates you're getting are above 8% now.
But how is not giving Ukraine $30 billion or whatever, or $100 billion. How is that going to help with that inflation? We
could spend it on anything else. Let's use healthcare as an example. Would we rather have healthcare, universal healthcare, or would we rather fund Ukraine or Israel or whatever the new thing's going to be?
Ideally, you could do both.
No, ideally, we take care of our own here before we start sending out shit tons of money.
It just depends. Do you think like liberal democracy is something that's like worth trying to protect in that region? And some people are going to say no, some people are saying yes. But
I really don't care about Russia or Ukraine or the Middle East at all. Like I care about Americans and making homeownership a possibility, having food and fuel and cars and these things be available to the average person, where people aren't working 5 gig economy jobs trying to make things make ends meet. Like it's just not a good use of our resources. And we do it over and over and over. What was the end result of Afghanistan? Trillions of dollars wasted, millions of lives lost, and the American public gets bupkis.
It was 1 trillion.
Yeah.
It was 1 trillion.
You can act like a trillion.
There's a big difference between 1 and 2.
And then among normal, like not like people who aren't online all the time, most people are infinitely more concerned with inflation and the cost of goods and services rising in a way that's totally unsustainable, wages stagnating or going down.
That's why Donald Trump's going to win.
Then they are about Ukraine or the Middle East. Like most people aren't stoked on that. Like when you talk to day-to-day people, for the most part, they're not like, yes, more money to Ukraine. They're like, I can't afford a home. I lost my job.
It was funding for Ukraine was initially popular. I think it recently dipped down just slightly below 50%.
I think it's because they're not doing well enough. Yeah, like it's the sports thing, right? When the Eagles win, we won. When the Eagles lose, they lost. And that's what's happening with Ukraine. Like you got to start. If you measure your territory gained in meters per week, you're going to lose the support of the people funding it. You need to be a bigger winner than that. On to Taylor's points. Your points sound great, but I think a lot of it is on the strength of your speaking and debating skills. But when you say stuff like, I want inflation to go down and I want interest rates to go down, those are in contrast with each other. Rising interest rates are why inflation rate went down. You can't have both. If you want inflation to go back up, you'll lower interest.
I understand what you're saying. I just don't see a purpose in funding infinite war. Like, I feel like we've learned this lesson. I feel like we're going to kick another football to have it removed again.
I strongly disagree that we've learned any lessons. We don't do that here.
Clearly we haven't learned any lessons because we're about to fund Israel with a bunch of money.
Imagine
we keep funding you.
The writing's on the wall.
It doesn't help Americans. Our government should exist to service Americans. It's our government. We should be the number 1 through 100 priority. And so when our country's not going well and economically the average person is struggling immensely, that should be the priority.
I would like somebody in power to better articulate what we get from this. Now, regular listeners know I'm pro-Ukraine, right? I've always been that way, and I haven't changed my mind. But can someone concisely and effectively explain what America gets out of Ukraine? You know, Lindsey Graham gives it a try. He's like, we wiped out half of Russians' tanks for 2% of our military budget. It's the best money I ever spent. Like, that's what Lindsey Graham says. And I'm like, all right, I get that.
You also have to imagine a world where nobody supported Ukraine and Russia just rolled through and annexed the entire region. In what universe is Vladimir Putin going to stop with Ukraine? At least now, if you make him pay a price, political, and if you make him pay like a financial price and a price in like human lives, that will make him.
You think he would have tried to like conquer Germany?
I don't think he would have started with Germany. He'd have started. I think he'd have gone down there to those tiny countries right below Poland, one of those tiny little countries, and done something there.
And then also, like, what do you think Xi Jinping's going to do in Taiwan if he watches Vladimir Putin walk into Ukraine unopposed and like there's no international support?
I don't to say that Putin would stop is like, well, you're not watching. He took Crimea,
He
waited 7
invaded
years,
Georgia
and then
in like
kept going.
2000, he invaded Georgia in like 2004. Invaded Crimea. Like he's gone on the record as saying like the dissolution of the USSR was the worst mistake that they ever made. Like he doesn't believe that they should have done that. So like he's very open and explicit about his goals of expansion. Yeah. And I just don't think that you can allow someone like that to enact that kind of a military campaign without any kind of international support. And so,
I think that comes so far down the list after.
You still need to get, but you still need to get
stimulating the economy, Taylor.
You still need to get the vote if you want to do universal healthcare instead of Ukraine. Okay, fine. Show me where the votes are. You need 60 votes in the Senate. Can you get 60 votes in the Senate for a healthcare bill?
Well, just because you can't get it right now doesn't mean, okay, well then just print infinite money and give it to Ukraine and give it to Israel and give it to Taiwan or whatever. Like that doesn't help us. That doesn't help American people.
I don't think they're printing infinite money. It represents such a small part of our federal budget. It's pennies. Like it's not a lot of money compared. And a lot the money that the aid packages that we're giving to Ukraine, it's not like we're just giving them like $110 billion in cash. Most of that comes in the form of like equipment that we weren't even using.
And then we're going to give more of our tax dollars to get more backfill equipment for us through Raytheon.
Well, we were going to do that anyway,
Yeah.
Taylor. I think that's the thing that's largely misunderstood. Like if we give an 18-year-old Humvee to Ukraine, well, shit, we were going to like melt it down anyway. We don't go to war with 25-year-old Humvees.
Did you see recently so we recently gave the Ukrainians those ATACMS missiles that we've been holding off on forever? It's an acronym.
It's great though.
They go very, very, very far, hundreds of miles of range. And I guess the first ATACMS that they shot was 27
165 kilometers.
No, it's thousands of miles. It's
totally not.
There's different. I know. There's definitely different like models of the ATACMS thing.
And those aren't the ones we gave them. Right? And the FAR models don't go as far as you.
Well, this isn't spelled in a funny way.
Yeah, last week's thing where it was 27 years old.
Well, that I don't know, but I know the
point I was making was the thing we gave them was made in 1996 or something like that. Yeah, it was like we've been holding on to that bullet since 1996. So I don't mind us giving it to them to shoot.
Do you think that we should be helping Israel like replenish their Iron Dome, for example? Or
no, we do that anyway by like our deal is we cover 50% of that anyway
for foreign aid and shit. No, we don't need to give Israel anything. They can take care of their own shit.
Okay.
They have a first world military.
190 miles.
They're fine.
Thousands of miles, Woody.
Like I don't enough with the foreign aid.
I know.
I think we live in a vastly interconnected world, and if we start letting strongmen destabilize entire regions through like military conquest, I think that sets a horrible precedent. Like, it doesn't mean World War III next year. No, probably not. But like, what does it mean for like 20 years from now, 30 years? What do the maps look like now? If we just allow someone like Putin to just roll in and annex an entire country, like that's fucking crazy. I
struggled to defend my own hypocrisy because on this show for years, I said, why are we giving so much to Israel? And I think actually Kyle and Taylor were on the other side of it.
How much do we actually give them though?
I don't know, but I just feel like they're a successful country. Why are you giving money to your rich brother? Like
exactly. Like we give them, I think it's $3.5 billion a year.
I think it's something foreign like that
aid. Yeah, but we give them,
but then Ukraine comes along and suddenly I'm for foreign aid. I don't know how to justify this hypocrisy, but here I am.
I'll tell you this.
It'd be different if we were like banging on all cylinders in the U.S. and everybody's got a great job and everybody's buying houses and everything's great and energy's cheap and food isn't like noticed. I've become price sensitive at the grocery store with meat and shit. Like I have. It's gotten that bad. It's so much more expensive than it was 4 years ago. So much more. And I'm not saying 4 years like fucking Trump and Biden. I was just thinking back to 2019, kind of before all of the COVID shit kicked off. And
but a lot of that inflation was unavoidable. And the fact that we got to a high of like 9% inflation and then through like the Fed raising the rates or whatever, we got down to like a normal level. I mean, it sucks. Like I'm not saying
it didn't go down. The rate of increase decreased.
The rate of inflation went down. I don't know what you mean when you say that.
He's saying there was no deflation. It didn't go back to previous.
But that's not how it works. Nobody thinks that that's going to happen, right?
Some people think that. Yeah.
He's saying prices didn't go back down; they just stopped rising, and I think we can all agree on that.
That's inflation.
Let the semantics go. Yeah.
But all things considered, we did pretty well. Like we avoided a major recession when a year ago, all the major economic forecasters were saying like this is like 100% certainty we're gonna get a recession. Like obviously, like
history will look at Biden more highly than the news does.
I don't think so.
I do. I agree.
He's
Taylor,
not done yet. He's not done yet.
Oh, God, he's got like 6 months to live, as far as I can
We
tell.
don't know the consequences of the major geopolitical moves he has made are yet. He has he has stopped a mud hole in Russia's ass over there with some paperwork and angered Vladimir Putin and that giant military whose best buddies China, who are running drills right now together in the disputed seas above Japan. Meanwhile, nobody talks about that shit in Sudan. I thought we were doing trivia tonight. I was told to prepare for trivia. I was told that the war in Sudan was going to be one of the categories. It's scary.
Dude, Sudan, don't they always have a war?
This is a big one. I sent you that clip of them all burning alive.
Yeah, I didn't watch that. I don't like those.
Come on.
Your point.
I remember that. Yeah,
I didn't see that.
Pretty good.
I wonder what's he up to now.
Would you want him back?
No.
Would you pick? All right, 3-man race: Trump, Biden, George W. again. We'll throw the rules out.
No, I'd go Trump again. Yeah.
Okay. Just checking.
I thought you wanted healthcare. What do you? I thought you wanted.
We want justice.
Oh, none of these people are going to give healthcare. The best thing Trump did was keep us out of like escalating additional foreign conflicts. That was the best thing Trump did. Because other than that, what do you do? Tax cuts for rich people in 2018, and
that's it.
He built some wall.
Wait, hold on. But Biden has like almost entirely ended the drone program. He actually pulled out of. It's not that we don't drop any drones, but he's severely restricted our use of drones. He actually pulled out of Afghanistan. We're not kinetically involved.
That's
in
not
any
a win for him. That pull out of
conflict.
Afghanistan. That's a huge.
Not politically, but I feel like to Taylor's priority system, Trump just said bullshit about isolationism. There were no Putin didn't do any invasions to test Trump's isolationism. And Afghanistan happened and Trump didn't get shit done.
And that's fair. Like if the Ukraine shit would have happened under Trump, it's likely he would have been funding it just as much, which I don't know. Disliked.
He says
he liked Russia so much. I'm not sure, but
I don't think he would have.
Make it some other country. You know, if fucking China invaded Taiwan, he might have jumped in there and done something.
Yeah,
he wouldn't be so isolationist in that situation, but
it's possible. Yeah,
if your goals
out of Afghanistan,
if your goals are more
people in,
if your goals are a more dovey foreign policy kind of thing and like expanded access to healthcare, I don't know why you wouldn't support a Democrat. That doesn't really make a lot of sense to me.
They just are toothless on all of their shit. Like they're not going to do anything. I don't believe any mainstream Democrat, any mainstream Republican is actually going to fight for healthcare because most of them are bought by pharmaceutical companies that profit off of us not having that.
You got to deliver a Congress that will actually deliver a bill to their table. He he tried to introduce he wanted to do a single payer thing, but if you don't give a president and Congress to actually write the legislation, it's not going to happen. A president can't do it by themselves. Like if you would have elected Bernie, he wouldn't have been able to just like magically summon Medicare for all. You also need to. We had a
time in 2018 where Kyle and I were both like more Bernie bros.
Oh yeah.